Hey everybody, good morning. It's Saturday, middle of October. We got some projects we're working on today. So let me show you a few of those projects I'm hoping to at least start this weekend. So right here along the fence, I'd like to do maybe one final job of just weed whacking. I like to keep these weeds on the fence actually for my bees. And there's some random weeds that grow. Those are asters. A weed is just a plant you don't want there, right? So these asters are great because it's a late fall nectar source for my bees. So our yard looks decent, but we don't mow our yard really, very rarely. And that's because we put our horses in our yard pasture, which is probably about 2 acres. You can't see it all, but here's part of it. Then we have another pasture there, and then the pasture wraps up over there. So our house pasture, we don't really mow. I mow it maybe once a season. I do have to do some weed whacking around the house, but for the most part, that's all I really do with weed whacking, is just, you know, maybe 20 feet out from the house to kind of keep that nice. But the nice thing is the horses basically mow our grass for us, so that's a nice benefit of horses for sure. Okay, so here's a fence I'm working on, and we have a little creek, a spring really. It's pretty dry right now. There's a little bit of water coming, but it goes underneath our driveway and then it comes out here. I had to put in a culvert extension of about 8 feet here, and now I'm building this fence. I built kind of this tiered wall section last week out of rocks and scrap wood and logs to hopefully keep erosion from happening, because what happened is we had a crazy storm from up the hill, and all the water came and went right here and washed out this gully. So this is another project I'm working on. If you've been following our channel, you may know that we got this she shed, which actually came from my wife's childhood home. Her mother sold her home, and we were able to get this old shed, but it was really difficult to get it here. It's 12 by 16, and it was hard to find a company that was able to haul it. They had to haul it about 40 miles or so. So this is just an old shed, but it's actually in pretty good shape. There's a lot of stuff in here right now, mainly construction stuff. But I don't know if you can see in the dark here. I got one roll of insulation because our plan is to make this as nice as possible. So this can be a she shed for my wife and daughter. They like to sew and quilt and do other projects for fun. Sometimes they sell stuff. This is also going to maybe serve as a guest cabin. It's going to have eventually, I think, a pull-out bed or a day bed. So when friends and family come to visit, we have room in the house, but if we have more than a person or two, we don't really have, you know, a place for people to stay. We also have, this is old, I guess, this is a section of wood ceiling strips from my wife's childhood home that they took out, and they had some scraps, and we were able to get some of the original ceiling from my wife's childhood home, and I think we have enough to use this for the ceiling for the barn, or the she shed. It is barn shaped, huh? We'll just see how that goes. So this is another project I'm hoping to work on. This weekend I'm just going to staple up a little bit of insulation. It's expensive. It's about $65. This is probably, I think, going to cost around $400 to insulate. So I can only buy a little bit at a time. Maybe every month I can buy a bag or two, and in 3 or 4 months I'll have it insulated. I hope. I'm actually planning on staining this deck. We actually have some nice decks on our house. We have 3 decks, but they really need to be stained. My hope is to screen one of those in and have a screened in porch. But step number 1 is to get the decks stained. So I'm gonna hopefully power wash today, stain tomorrow, and that'll be one step closer to what I really want to do, and that's to screen in my porch. So as I'm walking, you can probably see sections of this fence that I started building at the beginning of the summer. It's been 4 months, and I'm building a little bit as I can. I'm actually almost done with the fence. I just need to stain it, which I bought the stain. It's gonna be the same color as the decks. Then I gotta build gates. So that's another project I'm working on. We got some hay here. There's actually, I think, 8 more bales of hay. So we got that to load. We got the animals to feed still. We got 4 horses, a donkey, 2 mini donkeys, which you can hear. They're hungry. We got chickens, we got quail, dogs, cats. We got a lot of stuff. So that's what my plans are for the weekend. So the title of this video is the number 1 reason why homesteaders quit. So why did I show you everything I'm hoping to do this weekend? Let's talk about it. In the background, you can see what's left of my summer garden. Not much left to harvest. Actually, there's a few tomatoes. This is the latest time I've harvested tomatoes ever. It's the middle of October. There's still some, I guess, tomatoes, maybe a few peppers, some okra. My not zucchini, my loofah is drying. And that greenhouse I got like 2 years ago, really excited. Piece of junk, it broke several times. And I just gotta admit that that greenhouse is a piece of junk and I need to just throw it away. It was a bad decision. I should have just made a greenhouse myself. So next time I know, greenhouses that you can buy like that are probably not worth it. It definitely wasn't worth for me. Now I just have to throw it away, basically. It's more or less useless to me for the last 2 years, unfortunately. So here's why I think homesteaders quit. It's because it's so easy to get overwhelmed. There's a lot to do in life. Most people that aren't homesteaders, and of course everybody has passions, so everybody's doing hopefully something that they love in life. But right, everyone, or most people, you got a job, you have a family, you may be a husband or a wife, you may have kids, so you're a parent. You got to make sure that your kids are happy and that you're supporting their passions as well. Our daughter is into horseback riding and riding horses. She does riding competitions. She's on a ski club. You can actually ski in North Carolina. Isn't that weird? She's in scouts now. So there's a lot of things we want her to be able to do. And again, you got to spend time with your family, and hopefully you want to spend time with your family. Then on top of that, you have everything else that most people have to do. Like staining your deck is not necessarily a homesteading activity, right? You got to keep your house up on top of everything else. So we have a house, we have a barn that was on the property. We have that she shed that needs to be worked on. I have a man shed workshop that needs to be expanded. We have animals to take care of. Sometimes you got to put the animals first ahead of anything else. Animals need to be fed twice a day. So when we go on vacation, we have to find a house sitter. We have to plan months ahead of time. Sometimes we can't go out of town because we can't find a house sitter. Sometimes we have an emergency that happens with the animals that changes our plans 100%. It's very easy to get overwhelmed in life, but especially with homesteading, you have all this other stuff that hopefully you're doing because you enjoy. I think that's a good point too. I think sometimes it's easy to watch homesteading YouTubers on YouTube, and instead of being inspired by them, sometimes you feel like you got to keep up with the Joneses and you got to do everything that everybody's doing. You don't have to do that. You just have to do what you can where you're at and the best that you can. You don't have to do everything. A lot of homesteaders have chickens, right? You don't have to have chickens to be a homesteader, but a lot of people do. Some people have cows, some people have goats, some people have turkeys, some people have a garden, some people don't have a garden, right? I'm a beekeeper. I didn't even discover that I liked beekeeping until 2.5 years ago. Whenever we bought our homestead, I wasn't thinking about being a beekeeper, really. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that trying to live the homesteading life, you don't have to do everything that everybody else is doing. You can do things in stages. Sometimes you may have pigs, sometimes you may have turkeys. You don't even have to have animals to be a homesteader, really. You just have to find ways to be more self-sufficient. That's what I think everyone's trying to do. So you want to be inspired by people on YouTube, but you don't want to feel like, I have to keep up with everybody. We don't know everyone's backstories. Sometimes when we see people on YouTube, we see them in year 8 of their journey, not year 1 of their journey. So I think that's important. Be inspired by people, but don't feel like you have to, emulate them, right? You don't have to be exactly like anybody else. It's very easy to get overwhelmed, though. You can start stacking up more and more activities, but really you got to find what you love. For example, we had goats for several years. The goats were okay, but we didn't really love having goats. So we traded our goats for a donkey. Beekeeping is something I love. Horses is something my wife and daughter love. So you really need to figure out what you want to do as a homesteader and focus on that, right? Most of us are homesteading because we want to enjoy it, right? You don't want to get out of one rat race to get into another rat race. You want to do what you love and make sure you have joy coming from it. If I didn't enjoy being a beekeeper, I would not be doing it. If my wife did not love horses, she would not be a horse trainer. Do what you love and go from there. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you like our channel, subscribe, say hi, comment below, and keep living the dream that you want to live. Don't live somebody else's dream. I think that's important to remember. Live your own dream. Till next time.